excited to see everyone interested in learning more about how to enable your team to work remotely. So happy to share some tips and tricks of things that we do here at Stoneridge, but really interested in taking your questions and anything we can do to help you make this effective as possible. Certainly our world has changed quite a bit in the last couple weeks, and now we've got a lot of people who are working remotely for the first time, haven't experienced that much in the past, and so trying to share some feedback and tips on that. Been fortunate enough to be in jobs over my career where I've been able to work from home over time. So I've done periods of working from home in the past, and of course now with everybody working from home doing that a little bit more. So I'll share some of the things that worked well and don't work as well, but mostly we'll focus on some of the tools that you can use to be able to be productive as possible when you're working from home. So we'll start by making sure we've got our goals straight. So our goal here is just to provide suggestions and tools working effectively from home. Again, I want to take questions, so at any time, reach out and indicate if you've got a question. Alex will take a look at them, and then we'll shoot them on through from there. And happy to stop and take questions as we go along. And then we've got time at the end, and can certainly stay longer to take any questions that you guys might have. So at Stoneridge, this is our office now, which is pretty quiet right now, but we have half of our team basically who works remotely all the time. So they are very used to this kind of world. And now about half of our team has a desk or an office. So with the change, we made an announcement 2 weeks ago asking everybody to work from home. So everyone's been working from home. Occasionally there have been a person or two coming into the office, and my kids were taking up the majority of my bandwidth here earlier today, so I was a little worried that the teenagers might disrupt this webinar. So I did run into our office here for a few minutes, but there's just one other person here, so I'm staying at least 6 feet away, so I should be okay. But it's definitely a new world, but something that we're pretty familiar with here at Stoneridge. So first off, a couple things that are interesting about the idea behind working from home or remote work. There are quite a few pros and cons, and I think you'll start to see this as your teams get to working more and more from home. We actually had a team call today and one of the guys wondered, well, after this happens, are we going to have more people wanting to work from home? Because I've heard this as well too, but one of the studies was done through Harvard Business Magazine, indicated that about 65% of people actually feel more productive working from home, and quite a few would even sacrifice pay to work from home. And in a broader study that Stanford did a few years ago, it actually indicated that team members that work from home are 13% more effective than people that work in the office. And so that's interesting. And depending on the kind of work that you do, there definitely can be some value in that. We have a lot of developers on our team who are really just focused on solving a particular problem. And even when they're in the office, a lot of times they have their headphones on to root out any possible distractions to allow them to focus and get more things done. And we have quite a few of our functional consultants who are writing designs or updating other documentation that seem to be very effective working from home. But there's certainly things that you miss about being in front of people. And the thing that I've noticed the most in terms of people who have success working from home, it depends on your personality type. Some of those people who are more of a extrovert are going to struggle a little bit more. And so on the con side, what we noticed was remote employees have a tendency to feel like left out or ganged up on, not feeling like they have as many opportunities for advancement in some of the studies that have been done there too. So you can see how that can happen in terms of remote employees being kind of forgotten about because they're not in the office. And I think that's some of the biggest concerns that I've heard from people who have chosen to, or who have had concerns about the idea of working from home. But now that we're on a level playing field where everybody is working from home, I think that uh, takes away that particular challenge. But the other thing would be just finding opportunities to be social. So we've been trying to look at some options of how you can engage your team members remotely a little bit more. So a few of the things that we've tried here, and one of our managers suggested this, and he does this with new hires that start, but I thought this was a really good idea, is just daily check-ins, even if it's 5 minutes. Hey, how's it going? Are you comfortable at home? Any concerns, questions? Do you just need to chat with somebody for a few minutes? So the daily check-ins are a really nice thing to do. You're going to find which team members really need that and which ones don't. Could be someone who's a little bit of more of an introvert is like, yeah, I'm fine. I don't need anything. But those extroverts probably going to want to take a few minutes to chat. So I do recommend that. And when our team members first moved to work all remotely, we did call everyone down and just make sure that everyone is comfortable with their setup. So that's something I definitely encourage you to do with the team members that you have, is as they start to get to a position where they're working from home, are they comfortable with their setup? Are they in a position where they can get work done? I mean, we all have different family situations too. Like I've got a couple teenagers, but those people that have young children that are moving around the house quite a bit, whatever you can do to give some suggestions for how they can minimize some of that activity, which is a hard thing to do. Other things you can do to engage your remote workers is just provide them with different communication technology options. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go, but that's an important piece, is to make sure that they have the resources they need in order to be able to be effective. One of the things that's pretty important in being successful working remotely is setting up rules of engagement. And what that means is have a start time, have a stop time, have a routine that you go through to make sure that you're ready for the day and that you're being productive and you're able to have focus time during your day. Identify like what's the best way to communicate. So if you're communicating with someone, try to use video a little bit more often, making sure you're able to instant message the people that you need a quick answer to. So make sure that you're comfortable with what those rules of engagement are, or your team's rules of engagement, in order to be able to be successful and be effective. Remote social interaction is a good thing, and we've been doing a fair amount of that. I posted this on LinkedIn last Thursday, but we tried our first ever remote beer and pizza. So on Thursdays, we usually get together at the local bar for beer and pizza, but we can't do that now. So we decided to do a remote version of it. And so what we did was come up with different topics. And so we had a topic about things to be cooking, or things that you want to eat. And so I joined that one, and we had about 10 people, or about 12 people there, join our conversation, and we just took turns talking about what we're eating, sharing recipes of things that we're working on now that we're spending more time at home. But as you can see, it was a pretty casual thing, but it was fun, and we got to engage with some workers that are team members that we don't normally get a chance to, because they don't physically sit in our headquarters. So that was a good thing. And then the other thing to be concerned about is just encouragement and emotional support, especially for those families who are trying to manage young kids at the home. I mean, they can certainly come out of this feeling pretty exhausted with trying to essentially do two jobs at once. So whatever encouragement, emotional support you can offer them would be a good thing as they're going through something that's pretty challenging, managing both of those fronts. So there's a really good article on Harvard Business Review that a lot of people have been putting out good content about how to manage your newly remote workers, but definitely recommended them. I was working on my own list, and when I read that, I'm like, this is like exactly what I was going to come up with. So I borrowed some of that from that article. So take a look at that if you want to learn more about it. And then as it comes to the experience of working from home, a lot of the flexibility, or what I'm going to talk about next, kind of comes down to what type of computer that you have. So we at Stoneridge, everybody has a laptop, so that is a little bit easier. When you have a laptop, you're probably used to working remotely. There may be some challenges you need to figure out on the audio side because you may be more comfortable, working at a client site or working at a Starbucks or something like that than you are setting up at home and working consistently there. So I'll talk about a few of those challenges, but this is mostly talking about how do you work from home if you're used to working with a desktop. Because if you're used to working with a desktop, then you're not able to have the portability that you have with a laptop, and you may have to connect one of your own devices at home in order to be able to do your job, which presents a lot of additional challenges. So we'll talk specifically about some of the things that you can do to be in a better position to work from home if you've got a desktop normally. So some of the tools that we'll talk about today. So as a Microsoft partner, we're certainly focused and use on Microsoft technologies. We use the Microsoft technology stack. So I will be talking more specifically about Microsoft tools in order to accomplish this. I will mention some of the other tools that are out there as well too, but as far as giving examples, I'm going to focus on some of the Microsoft tools. So what we'll go into is we'll first talk a little bit about OneDrive and how cloud, managing your files in the cloud is an effective way to do it. We'll talk a little bit about your business applications, talking about like Dynamics 365 and other line of business applications. We'll talk a little bit about what a VPN is and how that would work. And then we'll spend some time talking about Microsoft Teams and using a collaboration tool like that. So cloud-hosted files. I really recommend that you host all of your files in the cloud. And what this means is taking advantage of a tool like OneDrive for Business. So Microsoft actually has OneDrive for personal and OneDrive for business, and I use them both. So you can see I've got a couple different little cloud icons in my system tray there. So the OneDrive for personal, I just keep all of my pictures out there. Any personal files are out there, and I have a certain amount of those files synced down to my hard drive. Some of them I don't sync to my hard drive. But as it comes to OneDrive for business, so I want to have all those files synced down to my hard drive. So what I do is I've created a folder that's you can see kind of in the bottom left there, my OneDrive Stoneridge Software Inc. folder. So any file that I need to do anything with for work, I keep out there in that directory. And then what it allows me to do is it allows me to have all those files available to me at any of the 3 computers that I use, or if I, have to go grab a laptop and I need to pull up a file here, I can do that. I can actually pull up files from my phone as well too. So if I need to look at something, I can do that on my phone because everything is stored in the cloud. So really highly recommend that you have your team working on OneDrive for Business as a storage option for them. The default, I believe, is a terabyte worth of storage. So you can store a lot of data out there as part of your Office, Microsoft Office subscription. So one thing I will note about if you are using OneDrive for Business, you'll see over in the bottom screenshot here, I have a snippet of some of the files that I've got on my hard drive, and you'll see there's a blue cloud. And this blue outline of a cloud, that indicates that the file is actually not currently sitting on my hard drive. So what Microsoft is doing in order to reduce the space that you need on your hard drive, it's actually taking that file and storing it only in the cloud until you need it. And then once you need it, it will pull it down and you'll see this green checkbox. So that's indicating that this spreadsheet is actually on my hard drive. The files that are in blue are not on your hard drive. So the only challenge I would say that comes with that is I was on an airplane a few weeks ago and I was offline and needed to work on a file, and my file wasn't on my hard drive even though it says it was there. So that would be the only thing I would recommend. If you know you're going to be offline for a period of time, you might want to double check and make sure you bring that file offline. But as a general rule, this works really well. I had an experience a couple years ago where I drove from our Barnesville office to our Minneapolis office, which is 3 hours away. Walked into the office, started to get to work. I realized I forgot my laptop. Not a very smart thing to do, but we had a spare laptop at the office. So I logged into that spare laptop and instantly I connected to OneDrive for Business and instantly I had all of my files there. So I definitely recommend this. It's a good way for you to keep files in sync from your home device to your desktop. So talk to your administrator about what you can do in order to be able to get going with OneDrive for Business. And Microsoft's apps like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all of those are accessible on iPad or on a phone. So if you do have a situation where you have a desktop at work, but you don't have another primary computer at home, you can still access all those files. You can edit all those files remotely as well too. So they just use your Office subscription. You don't have to buy additional software to do that. So that's hosting files in the cloud. Now, when it comes to applications that you might be using, so we're a Microsoft Dynamics focused partner, so I'll spend some time talking about that. So if you're running Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, the Enterprise ERP solution, that's all hosted in the cloud, so you can access that anywhere. Same kind of thing goes with the OneDrive conversation. You can access it on an iPad or your phone. The user interface isn't great on a phone because there's so much content in there, but on a tablet or a desktop laptop, it will work well. Same thing goes with customer engagement. So if you're running our CRM or customer engagement product, you can use that from any device, anywhere. It does have an app for your phone, so you can use it on your phone, and it works pretty well from there too. So again, I wouldn't, have you spend all day using that app on your phone, but using it on a tablet or whatever device you need to use in order to be able to get connected is going to work out pretty well. And same thing goes with Business Central. So if you're using Business Central, you can pull that up on a tablet. You can pull that up on your desktop, but there also is an app for that too. So you can pull up Business Central and use that. If you're using Dynamics AX 2012 or Dynamics Nav, an older version of that, or Dynamics GP, in those cases, you're going to want a VPN into your internal network, and then you'll be able to launch your application from there. You can, using like Remote Desktop or Citrix, potentially launch it without a VPN, but the best practice would be to use a VPN for additional security. Now, if you've got other applications that you're using, like we use a tool called Applicant Pro to track people that apply for jobs here at Stoneridge, and that's just a SaaS solution, so I can access that from anywhere on any device. Our expense management similarly can be accessed anywhere. So if you have applications that are cloud hosted like that, again, you shouldn't have to do anything other than open it up, hit the browser, point the browser to the right URL, log in, and you're good to go. Now, other programs that you might have, like a CAD program or other line of business applications, those are going to follow that same kind of case with AX or GP, where you're going to generally going to need to log in to your network and be able to access it from there. So you can get these VPN tools for an iPad or for your home computer, but that's going to be the secure way to go about accessing those types of products. So it just depends, is it a SaaS product or is it a line of business product that runs on a local network. In that case, you're going to need a VPN. So VPN is virtual private network. We use internally something with WatchGuard. I will say I'm not an expert on this, so there are a lot of different options out there, but that's the one that we've been able to use. So if you have not set up a VPN before, probably not the right guy to answer that question for you, but you need to set up the VPN software on your servers. you need to configure various different clients, and then each client who would be logging into a VPN is going to get prompted for, is going to need to download the software and get prompted for something like this. We recently set it up for on our iPad too, so if you need to be able to access it on a tablet or some other kind of a device, you're going to need a different kind of client software. There's something called an Open VPN software that you can use that will plug into things like WatchGuard. So again, you can learn more on that, or I'm not going to go into that in great detail, but if you need to do that, again, if you're going to be using internally hosted applications, you really should be using a VPN to maximize your security there. Well, now let's jump into Microsoft Teams and other communication tools. Again, there are definitely other communication tools out there, but we're big fans of Microsoft Teams, and apparently so are other people, because they've gone from 32 million daily users to 44 just in the past couple of weeks with everybody staying at home. So the first one part of it is instant messaging. So I do this throughout the day. I need to ask a question of somebody really quick. I don't want to don't want them to stop what they're doing, but I need a quick answer. So I just send them a quick instant message. You can do group messages. You can share files over messages. You can quickly call somebody if it escalates to the point where you need to make a phone call. So instant messaging is a pretty slick deal. You also have the conversation history here too, which is still searchable. So if you were chatting with someone, you forgot what you're talking about, that history is still there, so you can go back and find it. Conference calls, so Teams, one of their key features is the ability to do conference calls. So you can do conference calls, and there's a number of different options that you can take advantage of. You can share video, you can do different things with audio, you can share your screen, you can share either an application or you can share a whole screen. Right now, I'm using GoToWebinar, but I'm sharing a full screen. But again, GoToWebinar has similar functionality where you can choose to share just a particular app. And you can change your audio setup. You can do some whiteboard drawings on there too as you're sharing your screen. So there's a lot of functionality there. And then another great thing about Teams is the ability to use file shares. So you can set up a team for a particular reason. So, we have kind of a standard Stoneridge software team, and we have certain channels underneath that where we can communicate and exchange ideas. We have like a just for fun channel for people to post pictures of their cats or kids or whatever it might be, and we have a technology news channel, so we can post the latest technology news out there as well. And then we have the one I'm showing here, which is about our team. And so we have a team member's profile section there where you can see anyone who starts at Stoneridge. We do a quick overview of who they are with a picture of them and their background, and all of that's stored out in a OneNote, and it's accessible in our About a Team area. So that's taking advantage of plugging in different tools into Teams. Now, I can probably talk about Teams for an hour because there's so much functionality in there, but rather than me doing that, I do want to encourage you, tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central Time, we are doing a confab. So if you go to our confab site, which is on Twitch, so twitch.tv/Stoneridge Software, you can join our confab, and our pre-sales architects are going to be spending an hour going through all the ins and outs of Teams. So definitely recommend you checking that out if you want to learn more about it and how to use it. So one of the things that I see, and I even saw this today, so I had a couple of calls over the lunch hour with one internally and one externally, and definitely there's some getting used to how to do conference calls. And so a few best practices I wanted to share is, if you are joining a conference and you haven't used that tool set before, so if you're joining an external conference, I would not recommend that you just jump on right at the top of the hour and think it's going to work. If it's using a tool that you don't have downloaded, like the conversation I had at noon was using Zoom. Well, I happen to have that downloaded, but if I hadn't, I would have needed probably 3 minutes before the call got there to download that software and get ready to use. So Teams, Zoom, WebEx, GoToMeeting, Those are some of the most common tools. So if you're going to be talking to a lot of people from different companies, you might want to just download those tools so you're ready to go and get yourself a little bit familiar with how they work, because they're all a little bit different, fairly similar, but make sure you know what tool you're using for the conversation you're about to have. And then the other big thing, and I can't stress this enough, test your audio before you jump onto a call. So today, the call I was on, there was echoing going on. One person, forgot to come off mute. It just about every phone conversation you're on, someone struggles with audio. If you have 10 people on a call, guarantee someone's going to struggle with your audio. So test your audio before you join a conference call. Make sure you've got the right setup that's going to work for you. Like I've got this little headset that I use at my desk, and I tested it out many times. I know it works. I know how to click mute from here. I know how to click mute within the application that I'm on. So make sure you're comfortable. I don't know if anyone saw, but there was a video about a mayor who forgot to go on mute when he went to the bathroom. So there's lots of bad things that can happen if you don't know where your mute button is. So make sure that you know that and know what some of your options are. When you're sharing a screen, if you've got a dual monitor setup, try to make sure that you're only sharing one of those monitors. If you share two monitors at once, it's really hard to see. And then you might want to choose to only share one particular app. If you've got some sensitive information on your screen, you certainly don't want to do that. So when it comes to sharing, take a look at that. One of the other cool things you can do is you can record your session. So in Teams in particular, all you have to do is choose to record your session. It'll automatically save it to this service called Microsoft Stream, which is super, super slick. And if someone wasn't able to join, you can point them to the recording. It's really easy. And that stream service will actually even take a transcript of your session. So it'll record everything that you talked about. And try to use video if you can. A video is a good way to actually be able to see who you're talking to and see what their expressions are and get a little glimpse into what's going on in their world. So we've encouraged everybody on our team in particular now is to use more video. What I'm showing here on the screen too is the ability to join a call with phone audio. So sometimes if I'm joining a call and I'm about to hop in my car or something like that, I will join the call on Teams, but I'll actually have Teams call my cell phone, and then I'll join that way. So if you're struggling at all, and I use this too when I'm traveling, if I don't have a good sound device there, like a headset or a puck or something I could use, what I do is I will have the Teams call my cell phone, and then I'll jump on with my cell phone. So I definitely recommend that. If you don't have a good audio setup at home, take advantage of that. So I know we're running up on time here. I'll be kind of quick. One of the other things to be thinking about too, from a security standpoint, multi-factor authentication. So the ability to have your login and then have a prompt where it sends you a text or something if you're to validate your that you are who you say you are, is a good thing to implement. If you've not implemented that before, it is the most secure thing you can do to just protect your enterprise as people are working from home more often. If you've got some concerns about it, I think it's a good time to be looking at multi-factor authentication. So I won't talk about that too much. And then I wanted to share a few tips on To-Do, Planner, and Stream, but since we're running out of time here, I will save that and send that out in the deck for those that came here and shares a little bit more information about that. But